Hello, hello, and welcome to Wake Up to Your Life Magic. I'm excited to have you all here today. We are going to have another fun episode elevating the conversation around leadership through the conversations we're having. And I will encourage you to check out wakeuptoyourlifemagic.com to learn more about the book. Today, I have with me, and I'm very excited to have Rogan Frick join me from BearIron.com. Hey, Rogan, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Absolutely. I'm so excited because really you have an interesting background and one that is so entrepreneurial and fun and American made. So I thought
Yes.
maybe, Roger, you could first tell people what you do and how you went about creating it.
Yeah, so I have a manufacturing business that I started when I was a freshman in college. It was just kind of a side gig. And my main product is it's called a Grizzly Rock Screen, and it's for screening out rocks from your soil, and excavation contractors use them. And when I was in college, I needed a side job, and I needed a shop that I could put my motorcycle in. And so I decided that I would start welding these up. My dad had the idea. I built a couple when I was in high school and sold them at an auction. And I started selling them, built a website. Pretty soon there was some demand. Pretty soon it turned into a legitimate company. Had to kind of take a break for a bit, finish school, and then kind of regrouped. My dad and I decided to go in on it together, and we've started the business up again. And now we have a full-fledged facility with a dedicated operations team, and we ship all across the world.
Yeah, which is kind of fun for a college job. Now, is this something that you were already familiar with? Because many of us would, I don't know, I think in college I was just not even thinking like that. Is this something that you were familiar with at all from before, or something that you just picked up?
Yeah, I grew up. My dad always had construction businesses growing up, and he was also a welder by trade. So he taught me how to weld. And so when I was in high school, I had a shop class that I took as an extracurricular class, and was welding in there. And welding was kind of second nature to me by the time I got to college. So it was like I already had that trade under my belt, and so it was just like an easy way to make money for me.
Yeah.
Uh, Not an easy skill to learn, but it took some time. But
Yeah, but it's great because it's going to be so interesting as we kind of step into the world of AI. You think of things like this that are not AI-able, right? Per se, you may
right.
maybe the welding could be. I don't know. We'll see what machines they come up with, but it's just an interesting area to innovate in, and certainly one that's been rewarding. So tell us a
Mhm.
little bit. Maybe tell us a story about your life that you think was impactful as and something that you might share with us to get us to know a little bit about your journey and something that may have changed you.
Yeah, so I have a very interesting upbringing because of my dad's businesses. So his main business that he had on and off when I was growing up was doing mining reclamation for the state of Colorado. And so he'd take me in the summertime to go up to these jobs, and it'd be up in the mountains and in a remote places. And those jobs is like where I learned how to weld, and I would help him safeguard these mines and close them. And there was plenty of times that we were just up there. We didn't have any resources, or things are going wrong. You need to come up on and off the mountain. Um, and so when I was in high school and I had a driver's license, that was a great opportunity for him. He's like, good, he can help run things, and I can go manage the business side of stuff and be in town. So he would leave me up on mountain, and I would have a couple guys under me, and I would help. I would go through and make sure that we had the materials that we needed, get the welder up the mountain, run heavy machinery to get everything where we needed to go, and just make sure that everything was flowing and going pretty well. But there was plenty of times that I was being a typical 16-year-old, and we would go screw around on our four-wheeler or something and roll it and wreck his stuff. And he wasn't always happy with us, but it was hard work. And at the end of the day, I learned a lot of lessons about how to be resourceful as well as how to help lead people.
Yeah, and I think that you know we we can't downplay how important those experiences are. I think of a lot of youth in general aren't getting out and being responsible and taking on challenges in their teens, and it's such an important development for people,
Mhm.
really. And it helps you in your leadership. It's a real big reason. I talk about this all the time. I loved Boy Scouting, right? I
Mhm.
loved it because I was a city kid, right? I would never have gotten out and about and building fences and building trails and, downing trees and all that work.
Mhm.
Yeah, you messed up and you messed around and got in trouble, but you also learned incredible leadership, right?
Right. And you learn like the value of hard work because there is something rewarding in it, at the end of the day. I mean, it sometimes it can be hard if you're doing it day in and day out, but at a younger age, and learning like, okay, we this is how things are built and this is how things are made, and having a little bit of respect for that is
Yeah.
something I think that's important to learn.
Now, Rogan, one of the things that I was really excited about, you were talking about, your business, you have a team that kind of operates it, and then you're thinking about sort of expanding and growing. When you think about the vision you have for what you want to create in the world, right, as your next
Mhm.
steps, where are you shooting for? What are you looking to do and create?
Yeah, so I want to take my business to another level of being able to offer more services for my customers. And I think that there is a way to do that through e-commerce. I feel that the construction industry is still, well, it is a lag industry, which means it's behind the technological curve a lot of the time. And because of that, the way that they do orderings and the way that they get materials and the those typical channels that they go through, it's still in the old fashioned sense of like, you got to call somebody and send in a purchase order and go jump through all these hoops, and maybe they have it, maybe they don't. And so my goal is to help expand a platform to where we can have the things in stock that people need, and especially like those weird products, because we're very niche, the products that we have.
Right.
And so I want to find more niche products that are kind of hard to find and be able to help procure things for my customers and just make it easier in the construction industry, because time is very important in construction. And we all know how construction projects go over time and are, they delay the public, and they're always a pain in the butt for everybody. And so if we can help speed that process up on the front end, that would be very helpful, I think, for the industry.
Yeah, that'd be so interesting to see if you can figure out what it almost seems like that would require something to make it scale, right? Almost like a
Mhm.
universality of the platform or something, for everyone to sort of use it by default.
Right.
Curious. That has me asking so many questions. What are the barriers
Yeah.
to entry? How can you do it?
Yeah. And
And you
for
do,
for me, I believe
yeah,
that like it's trying to just make the process easy. If the process can be easy, then it's people are going to naturally come to the platform if it's easier
yeah.
than all the competition.
Are you now? Do you also do consulting?
I do a little bit of consulting on the side, yes. I do some construction consulting because that's what my degree was in, and then I spent a couple of years in the industry actually managing construction projects.
Very nice. So I'm
Mhm.
curious, as we um, wake up to your life magic is really focused on really asking us to spiritually, morally, human connection wise awaken to the fact that we're kind of stepping into a new century with AI.
Mhm.
And, we are removing some of those things. We have effectively removed some of those things from the work that we do.
Mhm.
And there's so many different variations in thought and in spirituality, which is great. Sort of the beauty of being human. But as you think about leading the teams that you do, and as I'm gonna say a younger owner, right,
Mhm.
and you're looking out in the world, how do these topics make you think about your leadership in business,
Mhm.
and also our society at large?
Yeah, there's I feel like it's an age-old tale of the worker versus the manager, or the worker versus the owner, right? They've always been at each other for all of history. And that's still true today. We have a growing wage gap. And you have CEOs getting big raises and their employees don't get a proportionate raise. And so I think that there's some work to be done on company cultures in general, and making the workplace more of an enjoyable place to be. And because it's something that you can really respect and understand if you've been in the shoes of your employees. Because I'm somebody that's swept the floors. I'm somebody that's done the same work that they're doing. So I can understand and I can empathize with where they're at and what it's like to come in and day out and be throwing steel around and doing that type of work. And so I want to do everything that I can to make their lives a little bit easier and make it not so miserable. Because another thing that happens in like trade work is there's so much of it that needs to be done and there's not enough workers. And so you're usually working overtime and you're usually working weekends, and that's not good for the
Mhm.
mind. It's not good at all for the mind because it doesn't give the mind time to take a break and relax. And it's definitely not good for the body if you're doing physical labor that much. And so one of the things that we've done in our company is, there's always been this debate about like a 4-day work week. And it's always been either 4 8-hour days or 5 8-hour days. Well, we do 4 10-hour days so we can still get our 40 hours in a week. It helps us with a little bit of efficiency because then that's one less cleanup, one less lunch break that you have to do so that they can produce just a little bit more while still working the same amount of hours. And then having a 3-day weekend every single weekend is something that's really helped like the well-being of our employees. Our employees enjoy coming to work. They enjoy working there. And because of that, I don't have issues with my employees. I don't have anger problems. I don't have people lashing out at each other. I don't have people that are tired and showing up late to work because they're able to get a good night's rest and rest throughout the weekend and spend time with their families. And so I think that there is some, trying to like, if you can get a better workplace culture, you're going to see that on your profits and your revenue and how your company functions because your employees are going to be working a little bit more efficiently. Where, everyone tries to squeeze every dollar that they can out of their employees, but then they just wear them down to the point that they're not going to be working as effectively. They don't want to be there. They're ready to quit the minute that they can.
Yeah, it's that there's such a as you say that, I sit and think about private ownership, right, versus public. So the
Mm-hmm.
truth of the matter is that Rogan, as the CEO, right, in a private business, you can make those decisions, choose to love your employees very simply, and make sure they're taken care of. Right, they're going to come to you. I'm certain they'd come to you if they were like, hey, grocery prices are crazy. It's really
Mm-hmm.
hard. What can you do to help us? That's a dialogue you actually have. You can make a
Yes.
decision. Boom, right? And you're looking at the margin, and you can make a choice to say, you know what, I'll take a little less. It's going to work out in the end. Um, I think a lot of corporate life is so not a reflection of that, right?
No, it's not
Um,
because it's like get every dollar that you can, and it's for the stakeholder or for the shareholders of the company. It's not
yeah,
for you, just the CEO and the executive suite. There's more to it.
right. So it's basically
Yeah.
the ruthlessness of humanity's greed, right?
Right.
Like all the,
Right.
the nameless faces that are owning the company.
Right.
Um, yeah, which is us, by the way, if you have a 401k or anything like that.
Right. It's crazy. Yeah. Because it's always just trying to maximize that profit for the shareholders. Well, the shareholders of a public company is definitely everybody.
Yeah, I know, right? So as you sit, and it's just from your perspective, as you think about, the society that you're in, the world around us, how you feel like things are going or not going, what concerns do you have as you think about, I know I think you were saying one day maybe you might be a father. Like, what are some of the thoughts you have about the world that we've created?
There's a lot of unrest in the world right now. It seems to kind of be growing. With There's just so much back and forth and volatility, not with just money and numbers and markets, but with like emotions and feelings about how we should run the country. People seem to be flipping back and forth all the time with different ideas. And it seems that with that, we're moving into a world where it's kind of like a lot of unknowns. And then you bring in AI, and it's like, okay, it can be a tool for greatness and it can be a tool for harm, just like how computers were when they started to become mainstream and the internet. And so there's definitely a lot with that, and we need to be able to proceed responsibly with it all, and we need to make sure that I think that it could be a great tool, like for raising a kid in a school system and being a great tool to learn. I mean, because I use it every day to learn. It's helped me learn web development and coding programs and things like that so I can automate parts of my business. But at the same time, then there's people out there that they think that it's like their actual friend and they're like stuck in it and they are relying on this entity or this person that's not real. It's a computer generated algorithm and it's programmed to just kind of agree with you. And so it can kind of skew your perspective on things. And so as we move into the world and, I'm going to bring up a kid and everything, I need to make sure that I'm cautious about it because we can see the epidemic of things today, like iPad kids, right? Instead of nurturing our child and stuff like that, just hand them an iPad and forget about it. And that's done some damage, I think, to some kids.
Yeah, no, it definitely has. And so it brings up this whole thing about, the weight on the individual to self sort of select how we traverse, right, the technology around us. It puts a lot more responsibility on the individual, which granted, we're all responsible, right? But I think a lot about I guess I'd say as a more senior member of our tribe. I just had my birthday yesterday. I feel more senior. But as we age, we sort of realize, hey, wait, we're just going to let anyone do anything to themselves. At what point should I help other people avoid this pitfall that technology allows, right? So many things, but not everything is good. Not everything's great. Kind of to your point, right? The whole raising children on tech, right? We're seeing the results of some of that in some of the behavior challenges that we're having, the mental health issues that maybe others aren't experiencing like we are. So let me ask you, as someone who is running a business, it often can appear like, oh my gosh, it's so great. He's got it perfectly made. We like to idolize sort of like the business owner and what that life is like. Give the audience a little bit of a sense of vulnerability around your business. What's an area that's challenging or what's hard or what's not easy about your business?
I think one thing that people see from the outside looking in is they think that business owners, you don't have to work as much and things like that. But if there's one thing I can describe about owning a business and being an entrepreneur is it's inconsistency. So yes, there might be weekdays where I am able to go and do something, take time off and go play. But then there are plenty of other weeks that make up for those hours where it is Monday through Sunday, all day, giving it everything that you have to make sure that things get done. Because at the end of the day, you're the top of the chain. And so the problems go up to the next person above them until they hit you. And then you just have to figure it out from there.
Yeah.
And I see that in my life, especially once I started doing consulting on the side and helping other people, especially with construction, because construction has very hard deadlines with it. Everything really started to become erratic because I'm trying to manage my own business and then do my side consulting. And the side consulting, sometimes it's like, oh, well, we have a bid due. It's on Monday and it has to happen. Otherwise, and I need your assistance on this, Mr. Consultant. And so just trying to balance your life, I think is something that's very important to do because at times I think I've made a little bit too many commitments with my consulting and with my business and all the different aspects that I do. And so, and then I'm in a position where, okay, now I need to find a solution to work myself out of this crazy inconsistency and schedule that I have going on and helping them set themselves up and understand how they can learn and do some things on their own. And, that's going to be true. The inconsistency is definitely true. Even if you have just one business, you're going to have things all the time that are just all over the place. And so manage your time and don't be scared to say no.
Well, no, I think I can see that though. I mean, and I think we talked about it too. Like sales cycles are different in construction, right? And the engagement with clients or the projects themselves. So it's probably a lot of up and down in that business,
Yes.
and that's probably something you get to get used to. So tell me, Rogan, if you were to share something with maybe another person who wants to become an entrepreneur or someone who's doing business, something that you've learned in this experience of now having done that. What's the one lesson you'd share with someone?
I would say the biggest lesson that I've been learning is, and this is something that you have to do slowly, as the money comes in. You can't just do it all at once because you can sink yourself with your cash flows, but start handing things off to people, hiring employees and handing things off to them and delegating duties and making sure that they understand how to do it so that they can do it on their own and they can take ownership of that. Because the more that you can delegate out to people, the more that you can focus on the vision of your company. So that way you can then make better products and services, which is going to create more things that you're going to need to delegate out. And that's all how it goes into growing an organization.
Gotcha, which is important for people to think about as they're growing something. Let me ask you this though, in that, what was your recipe for hiring people? Because a really important piece of that is when you turn to that
Mhm.
other person, you're able to inform them what they need to do, and they're really great about doing it, right? I'm just
Yeah.
curious if you had a philosophy as you hired.
So the thing that I've been coming back to is the things that you are bad at. So your weaknesses, hire that out and to hire somebody that specializes in that area so that they can turn that into a strength of the business, as well as the things that you need to have done that you can't because there's still other priority items that maybe only you can do, right? Like only I can do the planning and the visionary parts of the business. I can do the scheduling,
Right.
and I have to be the guy that signs the forms and makes the big decisions about if we want to engage with certain people or not, right? But at the same time, like I have a marketing team. I have video editing skills to be able to make like promotional content, but I don't have the time to do that. So I hire that
Right.
out. And um, back to the point of your weaknesses. When I started on early, one of the weaknesses I had is I was doing shipments myself, and I was driving shipments out to people. And then the
Mm.
second time around that we were doing the business, we started contracting it out, but we had like 5 people with trucks and trailers that we knew that we were using
Mhm.
to haul our
Yeah.
loads, and it was very expensive. And so when we hired our operations manager didn't have any experience running a fabrication facility, but he did have
Oh, wow.
experience shipping. He worked in logistics. He understood how to ship products. And so we hired him for that because that solves our logistics problem. And we have the understanding of how to teach him how to manage a fabrication shop. So now he understands that. So now he is running the shipping logistic part, which helps us out. And then we've taught him how to run the fab shop. And it's been a really good time. He's done a really good job. He's managing everything to the point that I don't have to worry about operations side of the business as much. I can just check in with him.
Which is perfect. Which is
Yes.
perfect. Which is again to your point about hiring people that are capable and can
Mhm.
do the things that you need them to do, so you can focus where you need to. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today,
Yeah.
giving us a little bit of insight into the world you live in, um, and how these different thoughts affect you as a business owner. I will remind people you can check out more about Rogan's business at beariron.com. And if you want to learn more about Wake Up to Your Life Magic, again, check us out on our website. And if you want to learn anything about 9-figure leadership and how to take your corporation to the next level, you can check me out at drhelmutlove.com. Thank you so much, Rogan, for joining me today.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It was a great conversation. I feel like it was very insightful.
Absolutely. Take care. And thanks, everyone, for listening.